Why are so many people secretly carrying 7 cloves in their pocket before stepping out the door? And why are they claiming their entire life changed because of it? You might think this sounds absurd. You might assume it's another internet trend that will fade in a week. But what if I told you this practice has roots that go back centuries, and the people doing it aren't superstitious, they're strategic. They understand something most people overlook: the connection between small, intentional actions and the way your mind shapes reality. Here's what's really happening. When someone carries 7 cloves, they're not just holding a spice, they're activating a psychological trigger that influences how they perceive challenges, opportunities, and people throughout their day. This isn't magic. It's not mysticism in the way you might think. It's about creating a focal point for your attention, your energy, and your intention. And whether you believe in the symbolic power of objects or not, the science backs up one thing: rituals change behavior, and behavior changes outcomes. Let me break this down for you in a way that makes sense, because this practice isn't just about carrying cloves. It's about understanding how wisdom actually works in your daily life. It's about recognizing that the smallest gestures, when done with purpose, can rewire how you show up in the world. And by the end of this, you'll understand why something as simple as 7 cloves has the potential to shift everything. Cloves have been more than just a culinary ingredient throughout history. In ancient traditions across Asia, the Middle East, and even parts of Europe, cloves were considered protective. They were used not just to flavor food, but to preserve it, to keep decay away. And that metaphor extends beyond the physical. People believed that cloves could preserve clarity of thought, protect against negative energy, and attract favorable circumstances. Now, you might dismiss this as old superstition, but consider this. Every culture that thrived for thousands of years developed practices that help people manage their mental and emotional state. These weren't random. They worked because they created structure, focus, and a sense of control in an unpredictable world. When you carry cloves, you're not relying on the cloves themselves to do something magical. What you're really doing is anchoring yourself to an intention. You're telling your subconscious mind that today is different, that you're approaching the day with awareness, and your brain responds to that. It starts filtering information differently. It notices opportunities you would have missed. It helps you avoid conflicts you would have walked into. This is the hidden power of cloves. They're a tool for directing your own attention. Think about it this way. How many times have you walked out of your house, distracted, already thinking about 10 different things, and then the whole day felt off? You missed a turn. You forgot an important task. You said something you regretted. That's not bad luck. That's mental scatter. When you take even 30 seconds to hold 7 cloves, set an intention, and place them in your pocket, you're doing the opposite. You're grounding yourself. You're saying, I'm present, I'm focused, I'm ready. And that shift, as small as it seems, changes everything that follows. But why 7? Why not 5 or 10 or just 1? This isn't arbitrary. The number 7 appears in human consciousness across every major tradition and spiritual system for a reason. There are 7 days in a week, 7 colors in a visible spectrum, 7 notes in a musical scale. 7 is the number of completion and balance. It represents a full cycle. When you use 7 cloves, you're symbolically aligning yourself with that sense of wholeness. You're telling your mind that you're entering the day complete, not lacking, not desperate, not scattered. You're starting from a place of internal order. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Neuroscience shows us that the brain loves patterns and symbols. When you repeat an action, like carrying 7 cloves each morning, your brain starts associating that action with a specific mental state. Over time, just the act of picking up those cloves triggers confidence, clarity, and calm. You're training your nervous system to enter a resourceful state on command. That's not superstition. That's behavioral conditioning. That's wisdom in action. Now let's talk about how you actually choose the right cloves, because this matters more than you think. Not all cloves are equal. If you go to the store and grab the first jar you see, you might be getting cloves that have been sitting on a shelf for months, maybe years. They've lost their potency. The oils that give cloves their scent and their energetic quality have evaporated. You'll know a fresh clove when you see it. It should be dark, reddish-brown, almost mahogany. It should feel slightly oily to the touch, not dry and brittle. And when you smell it, the scent should be sharp, warm, almost spicy enough to make your eyes water a little. That's how you know the clove is active. Here's a subtle detail most people miss. If the clove has cracks, splits, or looks faded, don't use it. It's not just about aesthetics. A broken clove represents fragmentation, and you don't want to carry that symbol with you. You want cloves that are whole, intact, complete, because that's the energy you're trying to embody. You're not broken, you're not incomplete, you're whole, and you're ready to move through your day with that wholeness intact. Some people make the mistake of buying ground cloves or powdered cloves and trying to carry them in a small pouch. Don't do that. It doesn't work the same way. The physical integrity of the clove matters. It's a single, complete unit. That's part of the symbolism. When you hold a whole clove, you're holding something that nature formed as one piece. That resonates with your subconscious in a way that powder never will. So take the time to find fresh whole cloves. Go to a spice shop if you need to. Buy them in small quantities so they stay fresh. Treat this part of the process with respect, because if you cut corners here, you're undercutting the entire practice. Now let's talk about the ritual itself, because this is where the transformation actually begins. Every morning before you leave your space, take 7 cloves and hold them in your hand. Close your fingers around them gently. Feel their shape. Notice their texture. This isn't a rushed moment. You're not grabbing them and shoving them in your pocket while you're halfway out the door. You're pausing. You're creating a moment of stillness. And in that stillness, you set one intention for the day, not 5 intentions, not a long list of things you hope happen. One clear, simple intention. It could be something like, I move through today with confidence, or I notice opportunities that align with my goals, or even, I stay calm no matter what comes my way. The intention should be short enough that you can remember it, and specific enough that your brain knows what to focus on. This is critical. Your brain is a filter. It can't process every piece of information that comes at you, so it selects what to notice based on what you've told it is important. When you set an intention while holding the cloves, you're programming that filter. Once you've set your intention, place the 7 cloves in your pocket. It doesn't matter which pocket. Some people say left is for receiving, right is for action. Use whichever side feels natural to you. The important thing is that the cloves are with you, in contact with your body, as you move through the day. And here's the key. Don't forget they're there. Every time you reach into that pocket and feel them, you're reminded of your intention. You're brought back to that moment of clarity you created in the morning. That's the anchoring effect. It's like carrying a physical reminder of the person you decided to be today. When you walk out of your house with those 7 cloves in your pocket, you're walking out differently. You're not hoping the day goes well. You're not anxious about what might go wrong. You're grounded. You're clear. You're intentional. And people feel that. They respond to it. You'll notice that conversations go more smoothly. Decisions feel easier. Problems that would have thrown you off seem manageable. This isn't because the cloves are magical. It's because you are showing up as the best version of yourself, and that version navigates the world more effectively. Let me tell you what happens when you do this daily. At first, the changes are subtle. You might not even notice them consciously. But after a week, maybe 2, you'll start to see patterns. You'll realize that you've been making better decisions. Small ones maybe, but they add up. Choosing not to engage in a pointless argument. Taking a different route that saved you time. Speaking up in a meeting when you normally wouldn't. These aren't coincidences. This is your elevated state of awareness creating better outcomes. People who carry 7 cloves consistently report feeling more confident, not in an arrogant way, but in a grounded way. They feel like they have a right to take up space, to speak their mind, to pursue their goals. They feel protected, not from physical harm necessarily, but from the mental and emotional noise that usually drags them down. They notice that their interactions with others improve. Strangers are friendlier, colleagues are more cooperative, even difficult people seem less difficult. And here's the truth. Those people haven't changed. You have. You're emitting a different energy, and people respond to energy before they respond to words. Another thing that happens is this. Obstacles seem to decrease, not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop creating unnecessary obstacles with your own reactivity. You stop saying yes to things you should say no to. You stop overreacting to minor inconveniences. You stop letting other people's bad moods infect yours. The cloves remind you to stay in your own lane, to protect your energy, to move with intention rather than impulse. And when you do that consistently, life starts to feel smoother. Things start to flow, not magically, but naturally, because you're working with reality instead of against it. But here's where most people mess this up. They start the practice with enthusiasm and then they get sloppy. They grab any cloves, they carry them with a bunch of other junk in their pocket. They forget to set an intention. They let weeks go by without refreshing the cloves, and then they wonder why it stopped working. Let me be very clear. This practice requires consistency and respect. It's not a one-time trick. It's a daily discipline. And if you're not willing to do it properly, you're better off not doing it at all. Here are the mistakes you need to avoid. First, don't use old or broken cloves. I mentioned this earlier, but it's worth repeating. If your cloves are brittle, faded, or have lost their scent, throw them out and get new ones. You're not saving money by using old cloves. You're diluting the practice. Second, don't carry the cloves with coins, keys, or anything sharp. The cloves should be in their own space, not jumbled up with metal objects that can crush or damage them. Some people use a small cloth pouch. Others dedicate one pocket just for the cloves. Find what works for you, but give them space. Third, don't do this ritual with a distracted mind. If you're rushing, if you're scrolling on your phone, if you're half asleep, you're not really doing it. The power of this practice is in the presence you bring to it. Even if it only takes 30 seconds, those 30 seconds need to be fully yours. No multitasking, no mental wandering, just you, the cloves, and your intention. And finally, don't forget to refresh your cloves regularly. Depending on how much you're carrying them, you should replace them every 7 to 14 days. The oils in the cloves degrade over time, and so does their symbolic power. When you replace them, do it with intention. Thank the old cloves for what they've done and release them back to the earth. Bury them or toss them into running water or simply place them in your compost. Don't just throw them in the trash like garbage. Treat them with the same respect you'd give any tool that served you well. Now let's talk about the deeper meaning behind all of this, because if you think this is just about carrying spices, you've missed the point entirely. The cloves are a symbol. They're a physical representation of something much larger, your commitment to living intentionally. Most people go through life on autopilot. They wake up, react to whatever the day throws at them, and collapse into bed at night, wondering why they feel so drained. They're not steering their life. They're being tossed around by circumstance, by other people's demands, by their own unexamined habits, and then they wonder why nothing changes. Carrying 7 cloves is a way of saying, I refuse to live on autopilot. I refuse to be a passive recipient of whatever comes my way. I'm choosing to show up with intention, with awareness, with power. And that choice, repeated daily, becomes a practice. And that practice becomes a habit. And that habit becomes your character. And your character shapes your destiny. This is how transformation works. Not through grand dramatic gestures, but through small, consistent actions that accumulate over time. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this. They didn't give people complicated, inaccessible practices that required years of training. They gave them simple rituals that anyone could do, but that had to be done with sincerity and consistency. Carrying 7 cloves is one of those practices. It's deceptively simple, but done correctly, it has the power to shift your entire orientation to life. Because every time you reach into your pocket and feel those cloves, you're reminded, I am not a victim. I am not at the mercy of circumstance. I am a conscious participant in my own life. Let's talk about the psychology behind why this works, because understanding the mechanism makes the practice even more powerful. When you engage in a daily ritual, you're creating what psychologists call a keystone habit. This is a habit that doesn't just change one area of your life, it creates a ripple effect that influences everything else. People who start exercising regularly often find that they also start eating better, sleeping better, and managing stress better. Not because exercise directly causes those changes, but because it shifts their identity. They start seeing themselves as someone who takes care of their health, and that identity shift influences all their other choices. Carrying 7 cloves works the same way. It's a keystone habit that shifts your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who is intentional, someone who values clarity, someone who doesn't just drift through life. And that identity shift influences everything. You start noticing when you're being reactive and you catch yourself. You start recognizing opportunities that align with your goals because your brain is now primed to look for them. You start protecting your energy more carefully because you understand that your mental and emotional state determines the quality of your experience. There's also something called the placebo effect, and it's far more powerful than most people realize. Studies have shown that when people believe something will help them, it often does. Not because the thing itself has magical properties, but because belief changes behavior and behavior changes outcomes. If you carry 7 cloves believing they'll help you stay focused and confident, you will stay more focused and confident. Not because the cloves have mystical powers, but because your belief primes your brain to act in ways that create focus and confidence. You stand a little taller. You speak a little more clearly. You make eye contact a little longer. These micro behaviors shift how people respond to you, which reinforces your confidence, which creates a positive feedback loop. This is why I keep emphasizing intention. The cloves are a tool, but you are the agent. Your clarity, your focus, your decision to show up differently, that's what creates the change. The cloves just make it easier. They give you something tangible to anchor to. They turn an abstract idea, be more intentional, into a concrete practice. And concrete practices are what create lasting change. Now let me take this one layer deeper, because there's something else happening here that most people never stop to consider. When you begin your day with a ritual, any ritual, you're declaring to your own subconscious that your life is worth structuring. You're saying, this day matters enough for me to begin it consciously. That is not a small thing. Your subconscious mind absorbs that message and starts behaving accordingly. You begin to treat your time with more respect. You waste less of it. You invest it more wisely. You become more selective about where your attention goes and who gets access to your energy. Most people start their day in reaction mode. The alarm goes off, and the first thing they do is grab their phone. Emails, messages, news, notifications. Before their feet even touch the floor, their nervous system is already flooded. Their mind is already racing. They're already stressed about things that haven't even happened yet. Carrying 7 cloves interrupts that pattern. It inserts a moment of sovereignty at the very start of the day, a moment where you are in control, not your phone, not your schedule, not other people's demands, just you. And that moment matters more than you realize, because how you start your day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you start rushed, you tend to stay rushed. If you start distracted, you tend to stay distracted. But if you start intentional, calm, and focused, that energy carries forward. It's like setting the frequency on a radio. Once it's tuned, the signal becomes clear. You might be thinking, can something this small really make a difference? And the answer is unequivocally yes. Small habits shape big outcomes. A 1-degree shift in the angle of an airplane's flight path can mean the difference between landing in one city or another thousands of miles away. One small adjustment, made consistently, compounds over time into something massive, and your daily intention is a 1-degree shift in the direction of your life. Another subtle thing happens when you practice this ritual daily. You start trusting yourself more, because every morning you make a promise to yourself. You say, "Today I intend to show up this way." And then you carry a physical reminder of that promise with you all day. At first, you might forget. You might get distracted. You might slip back into old patterns. But over time, something changes. You start honoring that promise more consistently. You start acting in alignment with your own word. And when you do that, your self-trust grows. Self-trust is one of the most powerful forces in a person's life. When you trust yourself, you become less dependent on external validation. You don't need everyone to approve of you because you approve of yourself. You don't second-guess every decision because you know you can handle the outcome. You become more resilient, more stable, more grounded, and that changes how you experience everything, from relationships to work to challenges. This ritual also trains your ability to be present. Every time you touch the cloves in your pocket, it's a mini meditation. It's a micro reset. You come back to your breath, you come back to your body, you come back to your intention. In a world that constantly pulls your attention outward, this practice pulls you back inward over and over again throughout the day. And the more often you return to yourself, the stronger your sense of self becomes. Over time, you may notice that you don't even need to touch the cloves as often. The state of awareness they help you cultivate starts becoming your default. You begin to walk into rooms with presence. You listen more deeply when people speak. You respond instead of react. You choose your words more carefully. You become someone who others feel calm around, grounded around, safe around, and that presence becomes one of your greatest assets. Let me also address something important here. This practice is not about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. Life will still throw challenges your way. People will still disappoint you. Plans will still fall apart. The difference is how you meet those moments. With the cloves in your pocket and your intention in your heart, you meet them differently. You don't collapse under pressure as quickly. You don't spiral as easily. You maintain a sense of inner stability even when things around you are unstable. And that right there is real power. Not the power to control other people or manipulate outcomes, but the power to remain steady in the face of whatever life brings. The power to choose your response. The power to preserve your peace. Eventually, you may reach a point where you don't need to carry the cloves every single day. The practice has done its work. The intention has become internalized. The ritual has reshaped your identity. You move through life with clarity and purpose automatically. But until then, let the cloves serve you. Let them remind you. Let them anchor you. Think of this practice not as superstition, but as training. You're training your attention. You're training your awareness. You're training your ability to choose who you are, moment by moment. And like any training, it works only if you show up consistently. So tomorrow morning, when you pick up those 7 cloves, don't treat it like a novelty. Treat it like a commitment to your own growth, a commitment to your own clarity, a commitment to living deliberately in a world that encourages you to live unconsciously. And remember this, nothing changes overnight, but everything changes eventually if you stay consistent. The person you will be in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years, is being shaped right now by the small choices you make today. This ritual is one of those small choices, and if you honor it, it will honor you back, not by altering the world around you, but by transforming the world within you. And when the world within you changes, the world around you always follows. That is the real magic. Now, here's something most people don't talk about. The practice of carrying 7 cloves also forces you to confront your own consistency. It's easy to say you want to change your life, It's easy to get excited about a new idea for a day or two, but are you willing to do the same small thing every single day for weeks, for months, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired or busy or distracted? That's the real test. And that's where most people fail, not because the practice doesn't work, but because they don't work the practice. If you can show up every morning, hold those 7 cloves, set your intention, and carry them with you throughout the day, you're proving something to yourself. You're proving that you're capable of commitment. You're proving that you can follow through. You're proving that you're serious about changing your life. And that proof builds self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of everything else. You can't build confidence without self-trust. You can't build discipline without self-trust. You can't achieve meaningful goals without self-trust. And this simple practice, done daily, builds that trust one day at a time. Let me also address something important. This practice isn't a substitute for action. Carrying 7 cloves won't make your problems disappear. It won't pay your bills, fix your relationships, or hand you a promotion. What it will do is put you in the mental and emotional state where you're capable of taking the actions that lead to those outcomes. It clears the mental fog, it quiets the anxiety, it sharpens your focus. And from that place, you can see what needs to be done, and you can do it with clarity and confidence. Think of the cloves as a tool for optimizing your operating system. Your mind is like a computer. When it's cluttered with unnecessary programs, when it's running outdated software, when it's infected with mental viruses, doubt, fear, distraction, it doesn't function well. It crashes, it freezes, it gives you error messages in the form of anxiety and overwhelm. Carrying 7 cloves is like running a daily maintenance routine. It clears the clutter. It updates the software. It keeps your system running smoothly. And when your system runs smoothly, everything you do is more effective. Now let's address the skeptics, because I know some of you are still thinking this sounds too simple or too strange or too out there. And that's fine. Skepticism is healthy. But here's what I'd say. You don't have to believe in the symbolic power of cloves. You don't have to believe in energy or intention or any of that. Just try the practice. Do it for 7 days. Set a clear intention each morning, carry the cloves, and observe what happens. Notice if you feel different. Notice if you act different. Notice if your day unfolds differently. You don't have to believe it will work. Just be willing to test it. Because here's the thing. Wisdom isn't about believing the right things. Wisdom is about doing what works. And if carrying 7 cloves helps you show up more intentionally, more confidently, more effectively, then it works. It doesn't matter whether you understand the mechanism. It doesn't matter whether you can explain it to someone else. What matters is the result. And the result is that you become more of who you're capable of being. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who struggled with anxiety for years. Every morning, he'd wake up with his mind racing, worrying about everything that could go wrong. He tried meditation, therapy, medication, all helpful to some degree, but nothing fully resolved the issue. Then someone told him about carrying 7 cloves. He was skeptical, but he was also desperate, so he tried it. Every morning, he'd hold the cloves, set an intention, usually something like, "I stay calm today," and put them in his pocket. And something shifted, not immediately, but gradually. He started noticing that when anxiety crept in during the day, he'd unconsciously reach into his pocket and feel the cloves. And that physical sensation would remind him of his morning intention. It would pull him out of the spiral and back into the present moment. After a month, his anxiety hadn't disappeared, but it had become manageable. He had a tool, he had a practice, he had control. That's the power of this. It's not about eliminating challenges, it's about equipping yourself to handle them. It's about creating a touchstone you can return to when things get difficult. And that touchstone, as simple as it is, can make all the difference. So here's how you keep the practice fresh and effective over time. First, pay attention to when the cloves need to be replaced. You'll know because the scent will fade, or they'll start to feel brittle, or you'll just intuitively sense that they've done their work. When that happens, don't just toss them and grab new ones mindlessly. Take a moment, hold the old cloves, and acknowledge what they've helped you through. Maybe you navigated a difficult conversation because you felt more grounded. Maybe you made a decision that changed your trajectory because you felt more clear. Thank the cloves for being part of that process. Then release them. Bury them in soil, or place them under a plant, or scatter them in a natural space. Give them back to the earth. When you get your new cloves, treat it like a fresh start. Hold them, smell them, feel their vitality. Set a new intention, or renew your commitment to the one you've been carrying. This process of release and renewal keeps the practice alive. It prevents it from becoming mechanical or rote, and it reminds you that transformation is a cycle, not a one-time event. Here's another layer to this. As you continue the practice, you'll start to notice that your intentions evolve. In the beginning, you might focus on basic things like confidence or calm. But as those qualities become more natural to you, your intentions will deepen. You might start setting intentions around contribution, or creativity, or connection. You might start asking yourself bigger questions. What kind of impact do I want to have today? How do I want people to feel after they interact with me? What legacy am I building with my daily choices? The practice grows with you. It adapts to where you are in your journey, and that's part of its beauty. Now let's tie this all together with the deeper philosophical truth that underlies this entire practice. Life is not something that happens to you. Life is something you participate in creating, moment by moment, choice by choice. Most people don't understand this. They see themselves as powerless, at the mercy of circumstances, genetics, luck, other people's decisions. And from that place of powerlessness, they make weak choices. They settle, they complain, they drift, and then they wonder why their life feels empty or meaningless. Carrying 7 cloves is a radical act of reclaiming your power. It's a statement. I am not powerless. I'm not drifting. I'm choosing consciously and deliberately how I show up in the world. And that choice, repeated daily, compounds into a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. Because wisdom isn't something you acquire by reading books or listening to talks. Wisdom is something you embody through practice. And this practice, as simple as it seems, is a direct path to that embodiment. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem to move through life with grace, confidence, and purpose, the ones who handle challenges without falling apart, the ones who create opportunities where others see obstacles. Do you think they're just lucky? Do you think they were born different? No, they've cultivated practices, they've developed rituals, they've trained their minds to operate at a higher level. And you can do the same. It starts with something as simple as 7 cloves in your pocket and an intention in your heart. If 7 simple cloves can shift your day, imagine what happens when you shift your mind. Imagine what becomes possible when you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Imagine the person you could become if you committed to showing up every single day as the best version of yourself. That's not a fantasy. That's a choice. And it's a choice that's available to you right now. So here's what I want you to do. Try this practice for 7 days. Get 7 fresh, whole cloves. Every morning, hold them, set one clear intention, and carry them with you. Notice what changes. Notice how you feel. Notice how your day unfolds. And then come back and share your experience, because this isn't just about you. When you change, you create a ripple. The people around you feel it. They respond to it. They might even ask you what's different. And when they do, you can share this practice with them. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We're building a community of people who are serious about personal transformation, who understand that wisdom isn't theoretical, it's practical, it's lived, and it starts with small, intentional actions that accumulate into a life of purpose and power. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us on this journey, because the world needs more people who are awake, intentional, and committed to living at their highest potential. And that starts with you right now, with 7 cloves and a decision to show up differently. Your life is waiting for you to claim it. The cloves are just the beginning. The real magic is what happens when you realize that you've had the power all along. You just needed a practice to unlock it. So take that first step. Hold those 7 cloves, set your intention, and watch what unfolds.